Hi, and welcome to tonight's the second of a five-part community town hall series addressing a public health crisis, and that is the impact of violence on minority communities in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Erica Pedroza, and I'm a public policy associate at the Indiana Minority Health Coalition. In tonight's discussing, we'll be addressing violence in our communities, specifically in Fort Wayne and its surrounding area. Our town hall mayor and moderator for this evening is Hot 96.3's very own B Swift, who's known for his work as a DJ, but is also very active in his community addressing social injustices and violence. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to B Swift.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in this evening. We definitely appreciate it as we have a lot to talk about tonight, and we have a lot of things. And I'm going to say before we get started, at the end of the conversation, we will be providing a link that we would love for you to take a little bit of your time and fill out. It's a quick survey, but we would love for you to fill that out. Now, with that being said, at this moment, I'll bring my guests on the screen because we're going to get into some real conversation about some things that's really going on in the community. And the three panelists that we have, they are an esteemed list of people who knows what's going on and who has some input and who has some insight. So at this time, I would like to start with Nigel Sims. Are you there, Nigel?
I am here, sir. Good to be with you this evening.
Definitely good to be with you. Can you let everybody out there know that's tuned in right now who you are, a little bit about yourself, and the community involvements and efforts in Fort Wayne that you have?
Oh man, I'm just a country boy from Southeast Georgia, who God just decided to have his hand upon me. So everything I do, I want to give glory to God. So just one of the privileges I have is to work here in Fort Wayne with our kids, our youth, with an organization called Youth for Christ, working with teens from 11 through 19. And my goal, man, is for these teenagers to become indigenous leaders, to change their community for Christ, to live and lead in their community. And the only way that they can do that is we have to raise them up as a community. Our community have to assume responsibility over them. So that's what we do. I mobilize the community to assume responsibility over our kids.
All right. Well, we'll sit right there. We got some more guests that we're going to jump in. And right now, I'd love to invite Lewis King to the screen.
Well, glad to be here with you today.
I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. My name is Lewis King. I am born and raised here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I've been a barber here for over 25 years. And I'm like Nigel, I tell you, the Lord has had his hand on my life. I'm ordained pastor, and now I am the coordinator for the Fort Wayne United 10-Point Coalition, where we work to curb the youth violence in our community. We work to help remove roadblocks and do whatever it takes to build up our youth in a way that they can be on the right path. And we have definitely done a great work since we started through collaborative efforts. And we're just glad to be here today to talk about this necessary topic.
And I'm glad to have you here. Our last guest, Miss Anna, how are you doing? Can we bring you Anna on the screen, please?
Hi. I'm doing really good. Thanks for having us.
No, thank you for joining us. Can you tell the people about yourself and what it is you do in Fort Wayne?
Okay. I am an immigrant from Peru. I moved to the United States like 26 years ago, and I have been working for the Center for Nonviolence for around 22 years now. Mostly what I do is to advocate for women that suffer of domestic violence. And when I say domestic violence, I am not only talking about physical violence, I am talking about emotional, psychological, and all this kind of violence that sometimes we don't understand, that hurt, and we pass it on to our children. Yeah. So we do support groups. We help them if they need to go to court. We do interpretation for them too. And we provide any kind of service that will then become survivors.
All right. Well, listen, I'm glad to have you all a part of this. And tonight we have a series of questions we're going to ask. And if you feel like if you have something to say, if you have some input on any one of these questions, please jump in. These, it doesn't matter the topic. It doesn't matter. And anybody out there that's listening and watching, if you have questions, please make sure you join in. We will be doing questions and answers. And your questions are very important to us because you're the people that's out here living amongst these people that's on here. So if you have any questions, any suggestions or anything, please write them down in the comment box below. We will make sure we get them to our panel so we can get them answered for you. So we'll start it off. You ready?
We're ready, man. Let's go.
Yep. All right. So I'm gonna throw this out there to you, Lewis, and listen, Lewis, Nigel, you can chime in if you need. What is the state of violence in Fort Wayne currently as you see it?
Well, currently, as we see the violence in our city is definitely increasing. We had definitely early part of the year, as a result of COVID, America kind of was at a standstill. And so it has caused everybody from being in this stay-at-home order that we had to come out. And we see a lot of gangs coming up. We see a lot of stressors that are out there. We see a lot of tension. We see the gun violence, the homicides, and all of those things that are definitely negative to our community are definitely coming to the forefront. We are noticing that it has caused the Great Depression on people. And as a result of their emotional state, it has really caused a lot of bitterness and a lot of anger and hatred, things that create division within our community. And right now, I think that our state we're in a bad state right now.
Now, and you touched on it as you started this off, and of course, we've been locked in the house. It seems like now for 6-7 months, I believe.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm sure you had problems before COVID. Since COVID, do you feel like these problems have gotten a little worse, or you think they're pretty much the same as beforehand?
No, I think they got worse. We definitely, being with the 10-Point Coalition, we definitely have our boots on the ground, and we were noticed that crime had kind of ceased a little bit, being in the house. But we noticed as a result of coming out, people intermixing and mingling, that we saw that domestic violence was up. We saw that the shootings, and one thing I want to note, that the shootings that are taking place are not just in Fort Wayne, it's across the country. But we are seeing this trend happening, and also the youth violence that is taking place. In 2019, we've noticed that it definitely had went down from 2018 as a result of people's awareness to what was going on. But numbers are increasing, and we do see that what is happening now, we're seeing it all across the city.
And the way the violence is increasing, of course, we're locked in the house. We're being told you can't go party because you can only have 25% here. Right. You can't play sports. And I know you guys got that beautiful field house up there.
Yeah.
Teams are coming each and every weekend. Do you feel like a lot of this violence that you're starting to see, is this because the jobs are missing now because they're laying people off? The youngsters are bored and they have nothing to do. So the best thing they can do is get on social media, create tension between the east side and the west side, or this block and this block. Like, what do you think is the thing that's propelling a lot of this violence that we're seeing right now in Fort Wayne?
Well, the job loss is definitely one, but also when you look at the state that people were in, even prior to COVID, we talk about poverty and the effects of poverty and depression that is happening within the lives of people. People have been struggling a while. And so when you add this stressor of COVID-19 on it, we have limitations and we have boundaries that are taking place now that were kind of unheard of.
Right.
And now they tell you can't even go over to see your family members. You can't go out. And if you're out, they're limiting this. You have to wear the mask. And people are definitely tired. But there also is an element out there that I won't even blame on COVID. I won't even blame on COVID. There is a spirit that is out there, which is negative, and it needs to stop. And so we have these stressors that are bringing it out much more. But I don't want to blame it all on COVID. I think that attitude that is out there, It is one that we pray against in our churches, the one that we walk together in, and definitely with the organizations that you have here present. We fight this daily.
Okay.
And we definitely are doing our part, and we see that it is a struggle right now.
Nigel, with you being tied in with the youngsters and the teenagers because of your urban ministries youth for Christ in Northern Indiana, what are the kind of things you're hearing from the youth on some of the violence that's taking place right now?
Man, and before I answer that, I'm going to add on to what Lewis was saying. Some of the elements that we already know, where there's high poverty, there's high crime. That's statistically proven. But also with virtual learning, our kids are e-learning and distance learning, and they're, like you said, B Swift, like they're tired of being inside the house. And boredom, man, when you're bored, I made some of my worst decisions when I was bored. And our kids are bored because they're not, some of them aren't doing their work. Let's be honest, they're not doing their e-learning because mom is at home, me at work. There's no supervision, no accountability. So we're seeing our kids getting involved in things that they're not supposed to be getting involved in. That's why we need to be a village. And I think 2020, guys, like 2020, like you said, Lewis, we can't blame COVID, but what 2020 is revealing is our true colors. What's really been happening is revealing some true issues, true problems. And our kids, B Swift, to answer your question, man, what's been on their heart is they've been asking, where's our community? Where's the leaders? Who even with the protest that was hitting our nation, I was down there in Fort Wayne, down our downtown, where a lot of our kids were protesting, and they were just wondering where are our leaders, instead of pointing the finger like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing this way? Why? But where are the leaders guiding them? And that's where my kids have been asking me that question, like where are the community leaders stepping up, just not being in front of the cameras, but being in their lives in the trenches with them.
And that's real, because you want to see that. And that was the time for those leaders to step up and show that they were true leaders and to be able to hold those groups. Now, in 2018, Fort Wayne shows statistically a higher rate of violent crimes when compared to Indiana counties as a whole. When you hear this, what's your reaction and response in regards to the impact of violence in the minority population of Fort Wayne?
I think there again, we talk about what is going on now. America is in a different place. I mean, 2018 was a year that was high. 10-Point Coalition came on the scene towards the end of it. We recognized that it was an issue. And so 2019 was a year that we started tackling this issue and started walking and collaboratively working with organizations to try to help solve this issue in the best way that we possibly could. We wanted to help move this along and make it a point of awareness. You know, we usually read about it in the paper, but it's from the preventative standpoint. We wanted to be proactive with this. But as a result of 2020, like we mentioned, the depression, the stressors, all of these things that have kept us down.
Yeah.
And I say that, we talk about the people that are creating the violence. It has created stress on good people that are working every day trying to provide food on the table. And like Nigel was saying, it has created an issue with parents that are not teachers teaching their children. And that frustration within the home of not being able to be the educator. Single families are out there struggling more today than ever before. Fathers are some of them that have been in the system have been found it very difficult for them to even find jobs and things like that, which is causing them to revert back to some of the things that they have done in the past. And so that's not the excuse, but they need us to be there to help them understand that there is another way out.
And I'm glad you kind of touched on that, because this is what I'm gonna bring you in, Anna. Being cooped in this house, it can drive you a little crazy. Me and my father talk all the time. My father's in his 60s, maybe 70s. I don't know his age because he doesn't like to celebrate now. But every time I go over there, the first thing out of his mouth is, I'm going crazy. I got to get out this house. And being in a house where you got one child, two children, three children or more, plus you have a spouse, you might have a husband and a wife there. One might be laid off, going through some things mentally, feel some type of way because, hey, I can't go make any money. Oh, my stars. I'm the man of the house, or the wife is saying certain things and it drives you to a point. Miss Anna, can you tell me about the state of domestic violence within your city? And what, so you start with that question, and then I'll bring in the second part.
Okay. There has been statistics proving that domestic violence have increased like in a 20%, okay, this year.
Wow.
I have to say that is a huge mistake, and that is not the reality. Reality is that it have been increasing like in a 40%, because for minorities, I am talking about people that come from other countries that don't speak the language, that are scared because they are undocumented. They are scared of be sent back to their countries, and their kids were born here, so the kids maybe will stay here. They do not even report the crimes. They don't call the police. And when they do call the police, there is nobody to interpret for them.
Wow.
So a lot of times, women are battered. Women taking the courage to call the police officers, and knowing that they don't speak the language, nobody goes there that can help them interpret for those ladies. And I am saying ladies because most of the times are women the ones that are being battered.
Right.
And you know who interpret for those officers? The children.
That's true.
Those children that are 8 years old, 10 years old, that are already traumatized by all the things that they are seeing at home. And now you are re-traumatizing and putting all this on those children. I think that is terrible and should never happen. For 22 years that I have been working at the center, I have been mostly begging the police department to have people that speak Spanish. If the people speak Spanish, say someone that speaks Spanish. If the people speak Burmese, there's a huge, large community of Burmese people too. Send someone that speaks their own language. And if not, they are always saying, and I am sorry, and I don't want to get into this, but we have to get into this. Language line. Well, call the language line then. Don't use the children to do that. Because, you know, domestic violence is rooted in power and control. And all of us are feeling a loss of power and control right now. We are feeling it. I have to say that a lot of the ladies that come to the center have to say to us, when is that we are going to be done with all this? We don't even understand the language, and they are sending the kids to study through virtual, and we cannot help them. The second thing, I'm talking about poverty. Not everybody have the money to pay for a Wi-Fi. Not everybody have time to be there and explain to the children what they need to be learning. Nobody have taught them, not because they didn't want to study. It's because the poverty that they live in their own countries that wouldn't let them study. So what are we creating right now? What I am thinking is courts, advocates. We are going to see the reality of what is happening when this opens back again. Then is we're going to say what is happening with our part of mental health, because there is no help for mental health. If you don't have an insurance, and of course, if the people are undocumented, they are not going to have insurance. Where are you going to send the people? They don't have the money to be paying for all this. What is going to happen when this opens again? More suicides? More people with a lot of more traumas in their lives? Kids hating kids? What are we expecting? There is a lot of services, I know. At this point, putting my hand on my heart, we want to provide all these services, but we can't because of the situation. So where are we sending the people to be helped?
And
what can we do?
I think you made a good point earlier too when you started off and we was talking about domestic violence, and you said it's not just physical, is mentally also and verbally. And I think, like you said, if the police department pulls up and you have a child that has to translate, this child has to go back in the house at this point, and in that same house with the parents that they just had to say, yeah, my dad touched my mom, my dad hit my mom, etc. And they might not have locked the dad up because they can't prove it. But now you leave this child in this house to have to endure maybe a physical violence, maybe some type of verbal and emotional violence. And that can cause the child to be like, you know what? I'm running away. I can go down the street and hang out with dudes on the corner. And who cares what they do? Who cares they sell drugs? I'm going with them because I feel safe. And now we just made one child into a statistic
exactly
of what's going on. And
it's sad to say, but the threats that are made by, let's say, documented husbands or partners to undocumented partners is awful. You are going to be deported, so you don't dare call the police because the children are going to stay here with me. I am the one documented, and the kids are American citizens, so don't you dare do that. Those kind of threats, but you're putting the child in the middle.
Yeah.
You can't do that. There's no way. But it's happening more and more and more. And we're not even talking about the ladies. And again, I go with the ladies. The ladies that, yes, they make the call. Then they show that they have, let's say, a bruise. And they are not taking the rest. So they just calm down. Everything is going to be okay. And the abuser and the victim stay at home together because there's new policies, maybe because of the COVID. So I don't want the perpetrator to get COVID, but I am going to leave the perpetrator there with the victim, maybe to be killed.
Wow.
Something's going to happen. 9 times out of 10, you call the police on me, something's going to happen if I got to walk back in the house with you, because I was at a 10 before the police got there, but now the police done came. They know what's going on. I felt like you betrayed me. Now I'm at a 20.
Exactly.
Level. And that, like, again, like you say, maybe I go get a gun, maybe I strangle, maybe I get a knife, and it takes to a whole nother level.
Right. And going back to Anna, you talked so much about mental health too earlier. And I think that's so important because you're talking about that child who witnessed that trauma, what we call as adverse childhood experiences. And what it does, it matures and it matures. And then that son now becomes what he never wanted to become, which is his father. You become what you didn't want to become, but that's all you saw. That's all you were exposed to. You had no vision for your life beside what was in front of you. So adverse childhood experiences, but then we got our students in the classroom with adverse childhood experiences, and a chemical that's pumping through their brain is called cortisol, which causes you to fight, flight, or freeze. And this chemical is pumping through your brain, and normally this chemical is to give you the strength where I don't know, I'm not sure you have kids or anything, but if you saw a car on top of a kid, it would give you the strength to lift up that car.
Right.
But these chemicals are in our kids' brains, even when they're sitting in the classroom and everything is safe, but they don't feel safe. And another thing about this chemical is that the brain will not allow you to learn when these fight, flight, or freeze is in these chemicals is in the brain. You can't learn. So now they're in an education institution. We're wondering why they can't learn because they're not heard. I can't learn right now. And then, like you said, B Swift, now they're going off. I'm gonna go to a gang or something where I feel like I can belong, where I feel like I'm heard, a family. I'm doing something where I can release this stress, this toxins. I gotta let it out. I gotta release it. And this is the state where we begin to see in 2018 the violence begin to rise up. About 2018, Lewis, you talked about it. 2018. How our crime picked up, but also we have to realize in 2018 the unemployment rate was around 5% in our nation. But here in Fort Wayne, Southeast Fort Wayne, where most of the minorities live, the unemployment rate was around 12.9%. Right. That's not even talking about the minorities. That's just in the zip code.
That's right.
And so I can't find a job, and I don't have opportunity. I can't learn in the classroom. I'm under resourced. Right. No one the resources to me. And Dr. once said, he said. Thing about America, we have so much resources, but what we lack, we don't have a deficit in resources, but we have a deficit in will to do something.
Right. And the sad part about it, these children, then they get the labels.
Yep.
Yep.
Then they get pulled aside. They're put in special classes, and really, we're helping them out the door.
We put them on the pipeline.
That's right.
Once they get on that, we're gonna put you in ISS and
Yes,
go to
yes.
lunch. You're gonna walk the lunch behind with your hands behind your back in a straight line. It's the the school to prison pipeline that's formed, and these kids are already in mentality like whatever.
Right.
I go to jail, I'm prepared for it. Like it's crazy, you know. And speaking of which, let's talk about this real quick because I know all of you deal with the police. Can you tell me about the police violence on minority communities in Fort Wayne? And I'm sure on those who don't speak the language, it might be a problem because who can they tell? You know what I mean? So I'll throw that out there to everybody to kind of answer if you want to chime in.
Right. And Luz, I know you'll be great with this, with the 10-Point Coalition, working with our police department. One thing I'm learning, B Swift, is that I know police officers here in Fort Wayne. They're my friends. I know, but one thing I'm learning is that you can't teach character. You cannot teach character. I've seen I've seen police officers here in Fort Wayne. Someone pulled over in a Taco Bell, and the police officer, all they said is, say, "Hey, get in the car. Let me take you home." Instead of they chose their battle. They thought, I'm not going to risk anything. Just let me help the guy and get in the car. Let me take you home. Well, then we see what happened at a Wendy's in Atlanta, right? Where a police officer took it to extreme. So you can't teach character, and that's one thing I've been trying to tell my kids. Like, we have to humanize people,
Right?
We can humanize because of course they're police officers, but they're humans. We got to humanize people and hold the person accountable. Just like, I don't want to be stereotyped. I know everyone be stereotyped. Our brain is wired to make judgment, but we have to just humanize people and just see, like, that's a bad person and they shouldn't be wearing the uniform.
And Lewis, I'm sure you experienced being with the 10-Point means you walk through some of the most dangerous neighborhoods and blocks in your section. So I'm sure some of those guys appreciate you more than some of the police because, hey, bro, we don't like them. They put their hands on us. You know what I mean? Do you hear these type of stories?
Yeah, we do. And we have definitely become a bridge between the community and the police officers, because the community talks to us. They want us to hear them out, to help them. We were able to help even turn someone in because he thought that he was going to be shot by the police. I will say one thing that, like Nigel said, we have to look at the person, not the badge, because I know if something goes down, I'm gonna call 911.
Facts.
And I do understand that they're individuals, they have families, they have children, and they are looking out for themselves. But the protocol is what we are definitely talking about. It's not the message, it's the method. If there's somebody doing something wrong, we understand that there are certain things that have to be done. We just want them to be done in a way that is respectful of an individual. And so when it crosses the line of respect, and they get out of order, and they are not treating people like they are human and things like that, that's when it becomes an issue. People are fearful. Even children are. Youth are. When we talk to the youth on the streets, they're talking about, forget the police. We don't want them around, but they love our vets. But we want to be able to create an environment that they understand that all cops are not bad, that all people are not bad, but we understand that there are some people that have put on a uniform, that have a badge, that have done some things that cause death around the country.
Right.
And with that, we need to call out what it is. It was murder. They did that person wrong. But in Fort Wayne, we are doing our part with trying to create the peace and become a bridge between the community and law enforcement. Because like I said before, if push come to shove, I'm calling 911 when I need them.
I was going to ask you to chime in because, again, with a lot of the community that don't speak English, do you feel like there is a police violence in those communities sometimes that we might not hear about because they don't speak the English?
Because they don't speak the language, of course, and the fear of deportation, like I was saying, the fear of anything that could happen to them because they are not documented in this country. Of course, that's a fear. That's why they don't call. And then more violence is being created.
Right.
But on top of all the things that you are saying, I am not discussing, and I am not against that. They are excellent cops. They are fabulous. And there are some others that are not as good as the others. But
Right.
it's not that. It's the system. Because
Right.
we are not talking about it specifically about the officers. I think it's the system that is not working. The system is, let's say, sometimes I feel that is colluding even with the perpetrators instead of with the victim.
Right.
You start thinking, hey, hello, what is the problem here? Is the system. The system needs to make a change. And in order to make a change, we all need to speak up. And we need to start talking not only for the people that can defend themselves. I want to talk for the people that can't.
Right.
The
Right.
people that can't speak the language is one, that people that are undocumented, and the children. The children. Who is going to speak up for those little children that are re-traumatized? Like you were saying, as time goes by, those kids cannot learn anything.
Mhm.
So their mind is stuck in the trauma.
Yeah.
But I have people that have said to me, look, I went to school, but thinking that when I come back, the fathers, a lot of them have a lot of addictions. You go to the house, they are drinking, they push them out of the house, they don't even know where they're going to spend the night. Nobody can learn like that.
Mm-mm.
Everybody needs to have
Mhm.
peace in their lives, and to have somebody that nurtures them, that helps them, that is there to support them. And that is the part that sometimes I think we're missing. That's what I'm saying, is the system that is not working.
And
It's not us. We are trying our best.
Right.
And I'm glad you brought that system up, because now I'm gonna start digging into some of these questions that we are getting from some of the listeners and watchers that's watching this. So again, if you're watching this, please in the comment sections leave your questions. We're gonna try to get everybody's answered. And Anna, this is for you because it came in and it said, have the police been receptive to your request for translation services?
Okay, I have been talking to the police, like I said, for 20 some years. They have responded that they have hiring more Latino officers and Burmese officers, but they cannot find let's say there's not a lot of people that wants to become officers. However, one of the things that we said, there is a lot of translation services here in Fort Wayne. Hire one of those organizations, companies, whatever. Ask them to be interpreting on the phone. Don't use the kids.
Don't use the
people
kids.
that don't even know the wording. Maybe they are trained to say one thing and say another thing. So yes, there has been a lot of conversations, but at this point, I will invite Chief Reed to come and talk to us. Why is that this is not happening? If this is something that has been mentioned for years, and we're still stuck in the same thing. And I have reports.
And even if it's not,
was the one interpreting.
and even if it's not hiring those people, it's getting your officers trained to speak different languages. I'm sure it's ways to learn Spanish or Burmese that that can be effective. Louis or Nigel, I got a question for you that came. It said, Nigel, do you think there has been an increase in crime due to things and programs closing down for the youth due to COVID, like basketball courts and school programs?
Definitely, without a doubt, I believe that. And man, even seeing some of my own kids has been through our centers and seeing them in, it's called ACJC, it's basically a kid jail. But man, yep, we have took a hit, and we're trying to here in Fort Wayne. I know we're trying to still do things, but COVID related. But man, yeah, that has been a huge hit. But to be swift, if you don't mind, I want to talk. I also want to add this as well, going back to our officers and our police force. One thing I am proud of, that they're going through some racial implicit bias trainings.
Yeah.
And we all have it. We all have implicit biases. Our brain, we've been trained on it. You guys, I'm pretty sure you guys seen the doll study of grabbing dolls and asking the little kids which doll is prettier.
Mm-hmm.
Always they were picking up the white doll. But so that racial implicit bias, especially for a magistrate or for a judge, if you're making judgment and just saying, I don't see color, or, you know, I'm a good person, I'm a Christian. But really how the brain works is if your only encounter of an African-American male is what you saw in a movie, or that one time you felt scared when someone walked past and, you know, because you got robbed by a black person, that's how your brain is trained. So now in a courtroom, you're making a judgment on every experience you had subconsciously. So that's some great things that we're doing in Fort Wayne with our police force.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question is, what are some of the current needs to address violence in minority communities? Is it police response and training? Is it the bias training, community programs? You know what I mean? What are, and each you can give me a couple different answers, but what do you think is the need?
Well, I do want to piggyback off what Nigel said. I do see that as a result of the protesting, the conversations that are going on right now, we are meeting, we are doing the implicit bias training. Even from the judicial system, we're looking at it from the organizational standpoints. I think that has created a space for us to be able to be honest about where we are, to hear some uncomfortable things, and to start dealing right at the core and the root of the problem, and not pushing it away. And like when you talk about, you know, people and their biases, we all have them, but let's just call them out, call the elephant out in the room.
Exactly.
That's one thing. I also believe that prevention is the area that we need to start focusing more on. I love what you both are doing. You're working on trying to help people, but also you're working on trying to prevent. Nigel has done an awesome job over at City Life. We have Amos Norman here with the YMCA. We got Joe Jordan with the Boys and Girls Club that has done an awesome job with trying to help our youth so that they can help put them on the right course. And I believe that when you look at it from prevention and you start putting our resources there, we can start kind of curbing the violence and start curbing these attitudes and dealing right with mental illness that they don't really want to talk about in our community. It's almost like the mental illness label is convenient in the white community, but then they call it a problem in the black community. Exactly. They don't even want to look at it. Let's get to the root cause of why these children or why these families are responding the way that they are. Because once you start working on the root cause of the problem, we can start making a change.
Yeah. And when you say the root cause, do you feel like Fort Wayne has a hot spot for violence in the minority community? Is there I've been to Fort Wayne a few times.
Right.
I come up here all the time to host parties at one point, you know, and I've heard people say, hey, bro, over them railroad tracks, you kind of don't want to go over there. I ain't saying it's super dangerous, but that's not the area to be hanging out as a visitor. You know what I mean? Do you feel like Fort Wayne is a hot spot for violence in minority communities?
I believe that it is a hot spot, but when you look at the statistics, it's not just the southeast side of town. We have violent crimes that are occurring southeast, but when you look at it as a whole, people would be surprised about Northwest. Mm-hmm. They are definitely, in terms of the balance of crimes, statistically, they are right behind Southeast. And when you look at what is going on, we get the label because they label it, going back to what Nigel said, because of the biases.
Facts.
They label it because of when they see this, the coding that they say, a black male done this. Or when somebody else do it, they say, well, a man has done it. We have coded our information where people have, when they come to Fort Wayne, is stay away from the other side of the track. Don't go down there to eat. Don't go around those people. And that needs to stop because it's happening all over the city.
And it's crazy because that's true. People like, yo, you can't go there. Yes, I'm pulling up. Like I'm at the end of the, and it's been some of the coolest people I've met on the other side of the tracks. But go ahead, Nigel.
And I'm sure Anna and Luz can speak to this too, is like going back to where there's high crime, there's high poverty, there's under-resourced. So Southeast Fort Wayne, B-Swift, there's about 50,000 people that reside in Southeast Fort Wayne. We have 2 grocery stores. It's in a food desert. And, transportation is an issue. Also, the uninsured rate is so high. The uninsurance rate for Southeast is around 25%, which is high compared to to our nation average, which is in single digits. So those are some of the gaps. So I think when we see those hot spots, I bet you it's under resourced.
It is.
And why is that? Why is that? And once again, going back to Dr. King's quote, it's because we don't have the will to change it. I said we, like as a community, we all have to assume responsibility and just not point at what's wrong, but what are we going to do about it? Being thermostats rather than just thermometers and just saying this is the issue.
All right. So another question, and I'll kind of jazz it up a little bit. At this moment, when you talk to pretty much anyone between the age of 8 and about 35, the two things that everybody says is one, F12. If you don't know what that means, I'm not going to go into details. But the second one is defund the police. And we had a great conversation on the last community town hall about that. And I just ask you guys, what does police reforming look like with the you know what I mean? Like, because with the defund, we don't want police defund. That's not what it means. It means change up where the money goes. Instead of $7 million, give them $3 million, put some over here, To you guys, what does reforming the police look like? And that was a question from a viewer.
Anna, you want to go first on this one?
I really go with I understand that the people have different ideas and it's not actually what has been said. Yeah. I don't think that nobody wants to defund the police. The resources have to be put in different things. That is for me. And one of the things that they have been talking, and it's wonderful that if biases are going to be talking, that is something that needs to happen. Those are the things that need to happen. There has to be, like I'm saying, that it's not defund. The people are thinking is I'm taking the money away and they are not going to receive a payment. I think that's the kind of idea. But that is not what it has been said. Let's allocate the money for specific things. Like for me,
translators.
Those are so important and have to be like that, because there is not going to be a change if we don't do this kind of stuff. But it's not really the idea of they are not going to be paid. I don't know what is the idea of some people that think that, I am taking the money and you're not going to receive any payment. It's totally different.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Yeah. Go ahead, Louis. Go ahead, please, man.
And I agree with Anna. I believe that, it's not about defunding dollars. It's about creating programs and training to help them better suit and do their jobs. And so I don't believe in taking the money, because the first time when you start doing that and things start going haywire, they're going to say, well, I don't have the resources. It's the reallocation of some of the resources to work with the implicit biasness, to work on those type of trainings that help make them better and help them in terms of translating, understand, and communicating with our community. Right.
And for example, like B-Swift, like Louis, correct me if I'm wrong, but our 10-point coalition is a city initiative.
Right.
It's funded with our city initiative. There's some great things that other cities can be doing. And I want to, I can already say, I'll admit I don't have much wisdom in this. I just know that our police department budget is around $40 million a year. And I'm not sure what the specifics are. I haven't looked at it specifically, but I know Fort Wayne, we're on the right track, but we got a lot of work to do.
Right. And I agree.
Now, we got about 15 minutes of this conversation left, and we're getting some great questions from the viewers. And I'll ask this question from Nicole Corey. It says, do they have more than a few hours of training? Since we're talking about training and things like that, do they have more than a few hours of training? And I ask this because a police officer left an all-day training and encountered a person of color and shot the individual. I think it should be a continued process. Like, do you guys agree, or is it just...
Yep. I agree, but there's when I'm not sure of the specific question, but there's hundreds of hours of training through the academy, police academy. When it comes specifically with the racial implicit bias, we do need to increase hours, because there's been people going through this training and people of color shot more, Black people within the context of the training. So we all have our racial implicit bias, but they're here for Fort Wayne. I know our police department admitted that there need to be more hours of training around racial implicit bias.
I also think that one of the trainings that should happen is about cultural competency. They need to know more about the different cultures that are here in Fort Wayne,
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
not everybody reacts in the same way. And it's not because they are against the police or anything like that. It's the way they have been used to do it in their own countries. So
right,
sometimes it's because they are not looking to me, they are looking down, they are lying. No, they are not lying. It's out of
Right,
respect in
right.
their countries that they are doing
yeah,
that. So we cannot put everybody on the same plate, let's say. Everybody's different. And we need to start learning from the difference that we all have. But for that, we need to have people that come and do these specific trainings and explaining why is that we are different. We are not bad people. Most of the people are not bad people, just different. And it's beautiful to be different. It's
It
beautiful.
yeah.
We need to just to come to this understanding, but for that we need trainings. Those are the things that I think is what the people are talking when they say defund this amount of money and put it here, so they will understand a little bit more what is needed in our communities.
Good.
Okay, so I want to ask this because during this whole 45 minutes we've been on, I've heard you guys mention the chief of police probably more than anybody else in your city who sits at some type of higher level, right?
Yeah.
And I want to know, what has the response been from city officials to address the crime in Fort Wayne? What has the mayor said? What does the city council say, or this person that sits in this seat here? Like, I've heard you mention the chief of police. I don't hear, you know what I mean? Like, do these people come out, they speak, or do they just sit in their offices twiddling their thumbs?
Yeah, yeah. And Louis, you can speak and
Yes, I will.
and, uh, but from what I've seen, man, Steve Reed, who's our chief of police, and along with Officer Mitch, he trains our police here in Fort Wayne. He's a black guy, actually. So the person that trained our police is an African American. But seeing them volunteer here at our City Life Center and Boys and Girls Club, and we just did something called a Habitat for Humanity. We just built a house in Southeast. So there is work still need to be done, but they aren't just twiddling their thumbs. They're doing.
Right.
And I know I know Steve Reed, and I allow him to, and I challenge people as well. But knowing that you're doing the best you can when you can, but when
Right.
you know better, do better.
Right.
Louis, I give it back
Yeah.
to you.
Yes, and I'll say this too. As a result of 2018, the mayor of our city, Mayor Tom Henry, he was the one that championed the 10-point coalition to come into
Right.
the city and to help us with this violence that was going on, to try to create an environment, a space that we could talk and to help remove the barriers and provide resources. Steve Reed, our chief of police here, has definitely endorsed the work of the 10-point coalition. What I respect most about him is that he understands that what the 10-point coalition does in terms of creating relationship and the engagement they can't do. There has been some history that has caused this divide between the community and the police department. And they know that 10-point coalition have raised up men and women right from the community, grassroots people that have relationships that people trust. We are not working with the police, but we are working to create a bridge of opportunity for the people that we serve, our family members, people that look like us. And Anna, I can tell you, when I'm out there walking with my team, we run into so many people. I am blessed to have someone on our team that speaks Spanish. And so I know from the police standpoint, they have done a great job as of this year, talking about we have seen the areas that we need to make some changes. And these trainings that they're talking about doing are moving us in the right direction. I would welcome a baby step over nothing. I welcome dialogue and safe places to have these conversations. I welcome the collaborative effort of the police department, other organizations, our youth organizations to come together, because our youth need to see these officials in a different light. Right now, the lack of respect for the officers, and I'm gonna tell you, is in some instances what is being projected more across the TV is the negative stuff.
Yeah.
The murders, the things
Right.
that are happening, the ones that we want to drive away, that we're not happy about. And children are watching this, and we are expecting them to understand and respect people when we see that there's some that have abused the badge, have abused a uniform. And in our city, we are definitely taking a look right now at what we can do. What I love about our 10-point coalition, and I'm gonna close, I work under the umbrella of Fort Wayne United. Fort Wayne United was an initiative that was started from our mayor that collaboratively works with the police chief and other resources. We have system leaders throughout the whole city, from education, judicial. We have partners all across the board, and they have said we see areas of improvement. And when you start talking about children, you have to look at where are the children residing. And not only do you help the children, we have to look at how we can help the mothers. How can we help the fathers? How can we create an environment at home that is safe for them so that they can grow up and be whole? They're being torn apart right now.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask you, when you have those meetings, if you could call me and invite, I would love to come.
Yeah.
I would love to participate. I would like to challenge this kind of things that we are talking, because we want a better city for ourselves, for our children, for our elderly, for everybody. But yes, I would like to be part, because I see that there's still things that we can change.
Yeah.
And if we can change, then everything will be better.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that but I really would love to come to your meetings. So or text me or whatever. That would be good.
And I think this is some of the starting points that we have to continue to do, is dialogues like this, be swift, because just through this dialogue right now from Anna, from what her information is, so Lewis and I can go to our seats that we sit in and say, hey, we need to bring Anna in the room. This is my first time meeting her on this call. So it's just awesome. So we, as communities across Indiana, like, how can we continue to have conversations like this, just not on the screen, but in private room as well, and work things out for the better of our community.
And I'm glad you said that, because this is going to lead me probably to the last question, because it's a good one, and I think you're all going to want to answer this, and it deals with that seat, right? I got this, and it says, currently the Northeast region of Indiana, little to no minority representation in the legislature. What message or request do you have to your representatives?
So can you say that again? I was kind of broke up a little bit. So you were saying that legislative, there's little minorities that sit in those seats that make decisions in the legislative branch, right?
Yes. If they're watching, they're listening, they get the message that we did this, and you can tell them something. Hey, what's your message or request to you, to your representative up there?
The reason why I smile, because I know our representatives personally on the Democrat and Republican side, so they hear me all the time. But hey, this is my message for every leader, for every person, and what's dear to my heart is relationships. Know your community, build relationships with people. Hear them out when you see people protesting, rioting, and looting. Before you point the finger, just listen, talk to them, do some empathetic listening, because we don't know it all. Sometimes we think we know what's best for people, but we just listen. And I've been working with youth about 10 years now, and I still got to listen. I don't know it all. This is different generations, a different time. So just listen and build relationships with people. Be with people. Be in front of people. Don't be too high up where you think you're too important, where you can't listen.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback off of that. It's two things that you said that I say often. It's one is relationships. We do need to build stronger relationships, but in order for us to do that correctly, we have to put on a lens and use empathy. You know,
Yeah.
times when we're sitting on the other side of the table and we're pushing the pen or making decisions about people that you don't know anything about. You don't
Right.
know how they got in this situation. You don't know the roadblocks that are in their way. And you make a decision to keep them down, that we need to open up our ears and our hearts and
Yeah.
be able to exercise some empathy so that we can show some love to people and let them know that we care about what they are going through. We care about the situations that they're in, and we want to make things better for them. They're in positions to do that. And they also should be reflective. I mean, we have definitely people of color here, and they have definitely taken office here, and they're doing an awesome job, but it does need to go higher and higher. We need to see more representation of people that look like you and me. Anna, Nigel,
All of us.
we
Yeah.
need people that understand what we are going through.
And I would like to ask for more compassion and empathy
Yeah.
for and I talk from my Latino community,
Yeah.
for so many people that have been here for such a long time, paying taxes, doing everything right, but they don't even have a legal document and they are scared. If there will be a way for at least, I am not saying even citizenship, but at least to have a social security that would let them work without being scared and without being abused. I would like something like that. And also for our DACA students, that at the end, they will become citizens. They have come here since they were little ones, and they have studied their whole lives here. So they want to send them back at some point. What are they going to do? A lot of them don't even know how to speak the language, Spanish. They just know English. So hopefully, a little more compassion and understanding that the people are here to work, to help, not to take advantage of anyone. And that will be for me to ask for them.
That's good.
Listen, this has been another great conversation. This is town hall number 2 of 5, and both of them have been amazing. I can hear the passion for your community in each one of your voices, and I hear it in your heart. And I think this is why this is great to do, because there's people watching this that might not have known some of these things, that didn't understand the Spanish and Burmese community, were on the outside looking in and didn't have the proper people to talk to them, might not have understood the Southeast side is it a food desert, and these families and these kids don't have anything going on. Again, I know about Fort Wayne because I've been coming since I was a kid to go to the Speaks Field House at the time, to town to go up there and watch basketball games. But since COVID has hit, everything is shut down. There's no after school programs. Kids are learning via the internet. Some don't even have internet to learn. We're cooped up in the house more. We're around our spouse. We're around our kids more, which create an energy of tiredness and anger. So the one little thing can tick you off, flip you off, and set off a chain reaction. And I thank you once again to Lewis King, representation from the 10-Point Coalition, Fort Wayne United. I thank you, Nigel Sims, Regional Director of Urban Ministries, Youth for Christ of Northern Indiana, and Miss Anna. How you say your last name, Anna?
Justi.
Anna Justi, the Latina coordinator for the Center for Nonviolence. Listen, this has been a wonderful conversation as we cut to the end. I feel like somebody's watching. Somebody's going to go back and say, hey, they had some great points. We need to figure this out. We need to get translators. We need to figure out how to get these programs going. We love the bridge that the 10-Point Coalition is building for the community to the police department. And that's what these conversations are about. And I'm glad that I was able to moderate this and have you guys and young ladies on here as we talk about this. And we're going to keep these conversations going, because this now sparks something bigger. This sparks action, you know what I mean? From everybody, from the youth to be involved, to the mayor's office, to the police chief, to the city council and other people. this sparks the action for everybody to now be involved. And to all our listeners out there, we appreciate you for taking some time to tune into our town hall brought to you today by the Indiana Minority Health Coalition and Health Vision Midwest. And before you log off, we're going to give you a link. This link is a quick survey. We would love for you to fill it out, please, and tell us your thoughts and answer some of the questions again, as we are into number 2 of 5. And we even have a series that's in pure Spanish for the Latino audience, because we care about every community in every part of Indiana, because it's bigger than just one city. It's about everybody being involved. So we ask you to fill that out. I ask you to follow the IMHC Facebook page at the Indiana Minority Health, so you can stay connected to the next town hall and even stay connected to some of the next luncheons that's going on. Even though we're virtual and through COVID, we have some big things going on with the Indiana Minority Health Coalition. So please follow the Facebook page, like the Facebook page, and stay connected and get to know these people right here in your community, Fort Wayne, as they are here for you and they care for you. So once again, we'll post a link in the comment section. Please take the survey. And I thank each and every one of you for joining us, and have a good evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please give me a call, okay?
Okay.
So I will send you I don't know.